Hi, my name is Stephanie Wheat, and I will be discussing my behavior management plan for the classroom. So, first off, when thinking about a behavior management plan, you have to think of all of the things that the plan encompasses. You have rules, you have consistent daily routines, you have positive reinforcement behavior, and then you also have that respectful communication component as well. So, when thinking about um, what the plan would be, I think that after one having 20 plus years experience within the classroom and um, some of the research that I've done and that I've held dear to my heart, like with Harry Wong, The First Days of School, Rita Pearson. Those are some of the old ones that come to mind, plus the modern day research. There are all sorts of things that we need to make sure that happen within the classroom, starting on day one, that makes classroom management manageable, if that makes any sense. So the first thing that we'll kind of look at is classroom rules. And so, with those rules in my classroom, it's very few. It's being respectful, being responsible, um, be ready to learn, be safe, and then I also kind of include be a helper. So, within all of these, each particular rule has separate behaviors and expectations that follow underneath them. And so you have to be very clear with these classroom rules and allow students to define them in your initial discussions. That next thing of after the rules is being able to have consistent daily routines. You have to have a procedure for everything in the classroom. Throwing away paper, getting a pencil, leaving the room, um, restroom breaks, how to um, get their books or their notebooks, how to dismiss your class. So the expectations and procedures have to be very clear. Now, within these procedures will be taught within class as things arise. That is the best way to actually be able to teach them ahead of time. One example of a classroom procedure in my class was how we dismiss. It was a basic three, or will be a basic three-step process. The first step was prepare, and at that time, students told me what they would have to do to be able to prepare for dismissal. And so they had the basic understanding of what was expected of them. Two was to stand, push their chairs in, make sure everything is is handled prior to them leaving. And then three, when the teacher calls step three, then the students actually get out, and so they leave the classroom. So even knowing how to come in the class and how to exit the class, every procedure, every routine um, should be taught and consistently used within the classroom. The next thing is respectful communication practices. Now, there needs to be a set way that students are communicated with and parents or other stakeholders are communicated with. That is also a part of the classroom behavior management plan. And so, whenever you look at all of these things, you have to be able to communicate effectively. Um, and that's for positive behaviors and negative behaviors alike. We must have a proactive behavior guideline. We need to be able to give those visual cues, and we also need to have those structured transitions um, that basically will, again, support effective classroom control. With having these expectations and routines. Students generally are not confused about what their expectations are, and how to actually be successful at following them. So we need to be able to think about some of the research. And when we talked about that research, we learned that having clear and concise basic rules are one of the most successful parts of the classroom management plan, as I said before. And then we have to be able to understand that students are not going to come in, nor should we have the expectations that they're going to come in and know how to behave. And so, what is allowed in one class may not be allowed in another class. And so, we have to make sure that as the leader, the support within that classroom, that not only are we modeling the expectations and the behaviors that we want, but we're also actually teaching and holding our kids accountable. With that, I believe that classroom management will be easier when you are authentic, you are relatable, and likable. And so some people don't think that that's really important, but it really is, because as Rita Pearson has always said, they don't learn from people they don't like. And so we have to be able to find that way to be able to connect with our kids and build those relationships.